Hey, welcome to the Really Charlie podcast. Hello, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I am glad to join you guys today, and thank you for joining us on the Really Charlie podcast. Today's guest is one of my favorite city councilors of New Bedford, Massachusetts, former city councilor and school committee. She has definitely been doing her civic duty for a very, very long time, and I'm very proud of her. Is one thing I learned about politics, right? Is you only run if you're disappointed with the person in the seat. And guess what? Every time Ramona was running and had her elected duties, I didn't have to worry about running for any elected position because I was very, very satisfied with what she was doing and proud of her to be my friend and everything that she's doing. So today we have some information, and the information is this is very important. We're going to talk about something that affects every voter in New Bedford, and that's the 2026 elections. Why this conversation is important, and we're going to have Ramona explain why.
Well, Charlie, first of all, I want to thank you for that wonderful, wonderful introduction.
Well
It means
deserved.
a lot. Thank you very much. As you mentioned, today we're going to be talking about why is voting so important. And people need to understand, first of all, that voting is more than checking a name on a ballot, and that all politics start at the local level. That's why voting is so important. Excuse me. An informed voter should know who the candidates are. What they have actually done is also very important. Who is financing their campaign? And whether or not the information we're hearing about them is accurate. My purpose today I'm not here to tell people how to vote, Charlie. It's to give the people some simple tools so they can make the most important decisions for themselves that impact their daily lives.
Hmm. Yeah, it's all right. Let's start with the basics. The basics is when is the Massachusetts primary?
The Massachusetts state primary is actually next Tuesday, September 1st, and the polls open at 7 a.m. and they close at 8 p.m. Early voting is going on now. Early voting was from August 22nd and it ends August 28th. And you can do your early voting at the election office downtown. The general election is November 3rd, 2026. And that's an important distinction because the question three that I'm sure a lot of people have heard about and are familiar about with the all-state primary party voting is going to be on that ballot, not on this primary ballot.
The
And it's a very
what
important question.
what exactly is the primary for people that don't know?
Charlie, I think it's the primary as one of the most important parts of a general election because the primary is actually the election where voters decide to add to who moves forward in the general election. In other words, people sometimes will come out and are not able to make a primary. Then they'll come out during the election and they knew that somebody said Jack Smith was running. And so they didn't make it out for the primary. And then they'll come out into the general election and they'll say, oh, Jack Smith's name's not on the ballot. And
Mm,
that's because, as I mentioned, the primary is the election where we, the voters, have the opportunity to vote for who we want to represent us in the
yeah,
general election.
so true. Um, the primary is so
That's why
important.
the
You got to second that.
yeah, yeah. Under our current Massachusetts system, political parties conduct primaries to choose their nominees, and that's
Hmm.
why the primaries matter.
Okay. What should New Bedford residents do before they vote?
Well, first, if hope they have a chance, first they should look at their actual sample ballot. And you can review a sample ballot by going to the Election Commission office located at City Hall on the first floor. If you have a computer or a smartphone, you can find it by Googling New Bedford primary sample ballot. Don't assume you know everyone who is running. Find out. Find out who are the candidates.
Yes.
What office are they seeking? Is there an incumbent? And what has that incumbent done? The incumbent meaning the person who's holding the office at this current election time. And then you want to know, well, what are the challenges proposing to do differently than the incumbent?
That's true. Um, how do I know who to believe?
Well, I know because we are seeing a lot of political advertisements everywhere. And then
Yeah.
you wonder, well, how does an ordinary person know what to believe? Here's the simplest advice I can give: don't let a political commercial do your thinking for you.
Mm-hmm.
Political advertisement is designed to persuade you. It's if an advertisement says, for instance, candidate Smith voted to raise your tax.
Mm-hmm.
Don't stop there. Just don't let that stand like that. Ask questions. Well, what taxes are they talking about?
Mm-hmm.
What bill did he sign to raise the taxes? When was that vote taken? Where was there such a vote? When did it happen?
Yeah.
And then look for that candidate's actual record or the voting record of that particular bill they're speaking about.
True. 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 So you're saying voters should fact check political advertisement?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely, Charlie. And you don't need to be a political expert to do that. People sometimes, they think, oh, I can't do this and I don't know anything about politics. But you know what? The most important thing about politics is to know that you want to vote for people who are going to represent your best interests. So I recommend what I call the three source rule.
Yeah.
Number one, find the original record if it is an incumbent. Number two, read reporting from a reputable news organization. Number three, look for independent verification or fact checking. When those sources agree and come together, you have a much stronger information about any candidate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ramona, we're gonna move your camera a little bit because we're missing most of you. Right.
Oh, okay.
Maybe could you raise it? I don't know what you have your phone, your iPad on. Probably
Okay, let's
go
see.
go down. Whoops,
Let me see if I.
my.
No.
Hmm. Yeah, we're gonna leave it like that because
Um,
the maybe if you because all I see is like from your eyebrows down. All right. So what Ramona is saying is the fact check. Do some research, check out everything that they're advertising. Everyone's check. Everyone can kind of do a good show. And get things scripted and say all the right things. Um, yeah. Um, so, yep. All right, Ramona. How
yes.
you hear me?
Okay, we're back. Is
All
that
right.
better?
Yeah, that's better.
Yes, I can
All
hear
right.
you. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. So we left off that we should fact check political advertisements. Um,
Right. And
find stronger
where
information.
can people?
Right.
Okay. Well,
Where can we find these original records?
okay. For Massachusetts elections, you can start with the Secretary of the Commonwealth Elections Division. For state legislators, look at the
Mm-hmm.
Massachusetts legislators' records. For members of Congress, use congress.gov. For very, very another important fact, as I mentioned before, you want to know who's donating to their campaigns.
Yes.
So the other place that you want to look is at for Massachusetts campaign money, use the Office of Campaign and Political Finance, which is OCPF. For federal campaign financing, use the Federal Election Commission. All those sources will allow you to get closer to the original information instead of relying on somebody else's interpretation. You can do
Mm,
this yourself, and it makes you a more informed voter, and it's another tool.
awesome. So we'll go a little further. We're going to talk about news, television, and social media, right? And you also wanted voters to think carefully about where they're getting their news from and why.
Well, because there's an important difference between news, opinion, political advertising, and social media. They're not the
Mm,
same. A news organization makes editorial decisions every day. They decide what stories get the attention, what leads the broadcast, who gets interviewed for how long and how much time. That doesn't automatically mean that the reporting is wrong.
mm.
It just means that we shouldn't depend solely on one source for everything we know about an election.
So true. Um, can ownership of a television station or news organization influence what people see?
It certainly can.
Yeah.
Ownership can potentially influence a news organization's broader priorities or editorial direction. A better approach is to compare the coverage that you're receiving. If something important happens politically, see how several reputable news organizations report it. They're going to do it in different manners, and you want to be able to compare them. So do that, and then look at the underlying evidence yourself and make your
Mm.
own decisions.
What news organizations would you recommend Massachusetts voters compare?
Well, there are quite a few, Charlie. I'll name a few, and I'm sure your voters probably have. They may have some more of their own. But to
Mm-hmm.
start off, I would start with WBUR, GBH News, WBZ CBS Boston,
Mm.
WCVB Boston Channel 5, NBC 10, Boston 25, the Boston Globe, and the Associated Press. As I said, I'm not saying that voters should automatically believe everything they read from even one of these reports. I'm
Yeah.
saying compare them. Compare these organizations and the other ones that you feel may be very reputable.
Sure. What about fact checking? What's your opinion on that?
Well, it's another useful tool. And there are organizations that you can use to help you do your political fact checking
Mm.
and political claims and explain the evidence behind their conclusions. The Associated Press also provides extensive election reporting and verification. The politic fact examines individual political claims. Massachusetts news organizations are examining claims made by candidates in our 2026 races. The most important thing is this: don't just read the ratings, read the evidence, compare the evidence, decide for yourself based on the tools you've used, the evidence you formulated and acquire to make the decisions to vote based on your personal interest and how it impacts your daily lives.
Exactly. Let's turn to question 3. And what exactly is question 3?
I'm so glad you I'm so glad you mentioned that too. Question 3 will appear on the November 3rd ballot. It won't be on the primary ballot, but it deals with how Massachusetts conducts our state primary elections. The easiest way to understand it is this: Massachusetts currently has political primary elections. Question 3 proposes moving what they call the covered elections to an all-party top 2 primary system.
Can you explain the top 2 in plain English?
Absolutely. All of the candidates would compete together in the primary race. Voters would choose amongst them. All of their names would be on the same ballot. The 2 candidates receiving the most votes move on to November, regardless of their political party affiliation. That's the key.
Kind of, well, I'll get back to that. So could 2 Democrats end up running against each other in November?
Yes, absolutely. And two Republicans could theoretically advance as well. The
Wow.
determining factor would be who finishes first and second, rather than making sure each major political party has a nominee on the general election in November.
Crazy. What does voting yes mean on question 3? What does voting yes in question 3 mean?
It's quite simple. Voting yes means changing the current system as we know it. You are supporting the proposed all-party top 2 primary structure. The 2 top vote getters advance to the general election regardless of party affiliation.
Wow. And what does voting no mean?
Well, voting no keeps the existing primary structure. Political parties would continue using their primary processes to select nominees who can advance to the general election. So the voters would have the option to select from the candidates who they affiliate, party affiliation.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Why do supporters want question 3?
Okay, and supporters generally argue that more voters should be able to consider the entire field of candidates. They argue it could create more competition, particularly in places dominated by one political party. They also believe candidates might have an incentive to appeal to a broader range of voters instead of just primarily appealing to voters within their own party. But I want to emphasize, those are arguments for the proposal, not guarantees about what will happen.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. All right. What are the opponents saying?
The, the opponents are saying that they argue that political parties should be able to choose their own nominees. In other words, the voters who are coming to the election should be able to choose their own political nominees. They also pointed out that in a top two system, November could have two candidates from the same political party.
Mm-hmm.
That could mean another party or a smaller party doesn't have a candidate in the general election. Again, those are arguments against the proposal. My goal isn't to tell listeners and voters which argument is right. It's just to help make sure that they understand the choice of yes and no. That's why voters need to understand question 3 beyond simply asking political parties to support or oppose it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why might this particularly be important to Massachusetts in Massachusetts?
Well, well, because in Massachusetts, we have more communities and legislative districts where one political party is much stronger than the other. So the
Mm,
real question becomes who should determine which candidates reach November?
yeah.
Should each political party choose its nominee separately? Or should voters choose from all of the candidates together and send the top two forward? That's the fundamental choice voters are being asked to make.
Mm. Um, Before someone votes for a candidate, what questions should they ask?
Okay, I would start, Charlie, with 6 simple ones. The first one, if it's an incumbent again,
Mm-hmm.
or even a challenger, what has this candidate actually done to win my vote? If it is an incumbent, how have they voted in the past? What legislation have they sponsored? And
Mm-hmm.
again, you can, as I said before, you can look that up. What who contributes to their campaign? And what are they promising now? And finally, more important, does their record match what they're telling us during the campaign?
True. What about choosing a candidate simply because they're Democrat or Republican or a
Well,
Republican?
party affiliation does give voters information about a candidate's general political alignment, but it doesn't tell you everything about that individual. Look beyond the letter next to the name.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the person's record, experience, positions,
Yeah.
judgment, and conduct. Then make your own opinion
Mm.
or decision.
Yeah.
And I always say, vote for the person interested in your personal interests and who impacts your everyday life.
True. Um, and let's see, we're gonna continue with why your vote matters. And some people say my one vote doesn't matter. And what would you tell them?
Well, first of all, and I always use this example. Listen, I won a race where one vote did count.
Mm,
So
mm,
every vote counts, especially in a democracy, because in a democracy, it's is not based on one person's vote deciding everything.
yeah.
It's based on millions of individual citizens' participations. Local elections and primaries can sometimes be decided by relative small group of votes.
Yeah.
And voting does more than determine who's president. It determines who represents your community and government and who makes decisions involving taxes, education, public safety, housing, transportation, and many of the other issues that affect our everyday lives as voters.
Man, that's nice information, great information. So, what's your message to someone that's thinking about sitting out this election?
You know, people sometimes say, and you mentioned, my vote doesn't count. You know what?
Mm,
Everybody's vote counts. You don't have to be a political expert. You don't have to watch TV news every night. And you don't have to agree with your neighbor. But democracy works best when citizens participate and make informed decisions.
yes,
Your responsibility isn't to vote the way somebody tells you to vote. Your responsibility is to learn enough to make your own decision to vote.
so true. So true. Um, Before we finish, give New Bedford voters your checklist.
Absolutely. And we've been talking about this the whole time, and I really appreciate you
Mm-hmm.
having me on to discuss this very, very important matter, especially at this time of year or any time of year.
Yes.
First of all, know what's on your ballot. And as I said before, you can obtain a sample ballot prior to the election right at City Hall. Research the candidates, and I think I've mentioned some tools that will help you do that. Look at voting records. They're so important, especially with incumbents, because it will tell you how they have voted and if they follow through on whatever they told you they were going to do during their campaign. Follow the campaign money. You want to vote for somebody who has your best interests at heart. So follow the money.
Mm,
Compare several news sources. The ones I've mentioned, other ones you may know or have privy to. Fact check major political claims. That is so important. People can tell you anything. Fact check them. And for question 3, understand what yes changes and what no preserves. And
yeah,
finally, the most important thing I can tell you, vote. Vote like your life depends on it, because it does.
sure does. It sure does. Let's see. Any final thought?
Yes, I do, Charlie. Your vote belongs to you. It doesn't
Mm,
belong to a political party. It doesn't belong to a television station. And it doesn't belong to a social media or Facebook page. It doesn't belong to a political advertisement. Listen to everyone. Verify what you hear. Look at the evidence. And then walk into that voting booth and make the decision that you believe is right for you, your community, the Commonwealth, your democracy, and most of all, your personal interests. That's what an informed voter does.
exactly. Well,
Thank you.
that man, that was a as they call video log. That was definitely a whole lot of good information that I think that should be shared almost every day because I mean every year we have an election, whether it's state or whether it's local. But every
Right,
year, this country gives you an opportunity to vote for something. And when you think of it, every whether it's local or state, everything that you mentioned applies um, each year. Locally and state. So I think that you hit the nail on the head. Um, you and your other co-authors, you did a great job on this. I truly appreciate what you did, and continue to be that civic
And
minded person.
yes, and as I mentioned and I mentioned in the beginning that all politics are local, and you're absolutely right. The information and the tools that I've mentioned tonight can be used in your local elections, your state elections. It's a way to become an informed voter and realizing and recognizing that you know what your one vote does count.
Mm.
It's very important.
Ever since I've been voting, I missed one election, and that was a primary. Um, I didn't miss the election; I just missed that opportunity in the primary. But other than that,
Right.
I vote every single time.
In I in any election, but especially a local election, as I mentioned before, those primary elections are where you're going to see Jack Smith's name. And if
Mm.
that's who you're planning on voting for, then you need to be there for Jack Smith. Because
Yes.
if everybody decided, oh, the primaries, they're not important, I don't need to be there. General election time comes, Jack Smith's name's not going to be there because he didn't get enough votes in the primary.
Mm. Well, Ramona, I truly, truly appreciate this time. I appreciate this whole week, that you and I had shared some quality time with each other to prepare and give this podcast to our
Yeah.
viewers on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Shout out to Carmen Alves. I appreciate you. Cheers. 5 stars. I appreciate you. And Cassie, I appreciate you also. And thank you for all the help with this
Well,
podcast.
Charlie, likewise, thank you so much for having me on. I know that we had mentioned this back during our recognition week
Mm,
about we needed to do some informed voting information for people who are out there, and I want to thank you for inviting me to be on the program to do this because it's something I've been thinking about, and as you say, my cohorts and I have been thinking, and I really appreciate this opportunity to present it to the
yeah.
to the voters out there because I know they're all out there.
Yeah. And I hope that the voting powers, the voting people, um, they register to vote, but the most important thing is to cast your vote. And I think that this is,
Exactly.
yeah, let's bring this out in
And as I
record
said
numbers.
earlier, right. And as I said before, I'm not here to tell people who to vote. I'm here to tell them try to share with them the tools that will make it easier for voting.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you
Awesome.
again, Charlie.
All right. Give the hubby a big hug for me. And I
I
will see
will.
you soon.
Okay.
And
We
yep, you need
definitely will.
anything, call
All
me.
right.
All right.
And listen, and please, and tell my wife, your wife again, I apologize
Yeah, it's no
for
apology
making her
needed.
wait so long. For making
Yeah.
her wait so long. I really
She
appreciate that.
she
All
understood.
right, honey.
She
You have a
understood.
great rest of the night.
Yes, you also. Thank you.
All
All
right.
right.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Well, hey, it is always. Well, I gotta always say that I always enjoy my conversations with Ramona Silva. Regardless of what we're talking about, I like to meet and greet her. Only the that's the respect I have for her and what she has done for the community, and I truly, truly will always support her only because she's been top notch, 5 stars in my book for many, many years. And I truly, truly appreciate her coming on here and giving her information and definitely providing a lot of information for you and I because I don't know everything. So when my guests come on, they teach me something. And I learned a lot. For one is question three. Wasn't aware of it until I spoke to Ramona, and that's the best thing is that what here I think I'm involved with politics a little bit, more so back in the past than now, but I also I missed that. I missed question three. So now I understand it. I already started doing my little research on it. And guess what? When it comes time to vote in November on question 3, I already know where I'm going to go. So thank you for joining the Really Charlie podcast. We have so many things going on with the podcast. Guests are ready to come on, where I can't be obligated to just do it one day out of the week or 2 days out of the week. It's getting to the point where I have to kind of extend it to do it on Thursdays like we did right now. Special episode with a special guest. So I'm going to continue to do this. I'm also going to be putting out some young people, some young great minds that are out there and that are thinking already of what they want to do. Whether they're beginning high school or whether they want to be a doctor, engineer, lawyer, police officer, teacher, nurse, everything. They're already thinking about it. So I'm trying to bring those teenagers on board of the Really Charlie podcast so they can talk about what they're doing and what their goals are, and also inspire their peers, their people that are around them. So this is going to be great, 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 great show coming up next Tuesday. So I want you guys to come and join me and see this young, fabulous woman, a young girl, young lady come on here, and she's going to talk shop about what her goals are. All right. Young minds. Don't want to waste them. You want to encourage them. All right, everyone. Thank you. Join me every Tuesday, 8 o'clock on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. It's usually around 8 p.m. Eastern time. I truly appreciate it. My other podcast is Sometimes You Have to Lose Yourself podcast, and that's me and Coach. We come on at 8:30 on Wednesdays. And like I said, I'll be entertaining other people on other days too. So, all right. Thank you. And from the podcaster that loves you, have a good night.